All right, we're on our roundtable now. Tonight, we thought we would deal with the issue of multilateralism. It follows last week's investment conference, this week's Africa Investment Conference, and of course, tomorrow also the Water Research Council hosting a meeting with the Belinda Gates Foundation, highlighting some of their partnerships in what is called the sanitation revolution. And of course, in the middle, of course, of a water crisis, we asked the question, is the multilateralism a useful tool? One of the things that we said at the investment conference was that the intra-Africa trade is something in the order of 15%. So, you know, African countries are not doing enough business with each other. Yet our country belongs to SADC, it belongs to AU, it belongs to the APRM, it belongs to so many structures, it belongs to the African Parliament, it even has a seat, however you may think of it, at the United Nations Security Council. Whether that's useful or not, you know, one has to wonder. And so I thought I would bring some big brains around the table. Desigan Naidu is the Chief Executive of the Water Research Commission, is going to lead us in that discussion now. Dr. McBride Mkalamba, who is a director at the APRM, the African Peer Review Mechanism that's based in Midrand, kindly agreed to also join us. And of course, Kanti Payal, an economist, I think you have been here before, because he's making the return to our roundtable. We had hoped to have Mr. Leslie Masdorp of the BRICS Bank, but unfortunately at the last minute he had to be called into another heads of state meeting that is happening in Brazil or something. So unfortunately he couldn't join us, but he promised to be in our follow-up roundtable. We hope to make this a regular feature to try and understand the international landscape of our politics. Gentlemen, welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Good evening.
This again? I want you to lead us on this. You know, you guys, you know, are shedding the light on what possible partnerships and innovations can happen. In fact, this is the second seminar in not so many months where you're bringing people from around the world to try and sort of grapple with issues that are huge, that are affecting countries, not in a unique manner, but actually in a universal way. Because it happens at a time where we're dealing with our own drought here and water crisis, whatever you may call it. Please lead us in that discussion. Is multilateralism given the necessary space to help deal with basic issues that are facing the different countries who happen to be members of all of these structures? I know it's not a perfect question, but just delve into it and just lead the table in those discussions.
Yeah, thanks, JJ, and good evening to everyone. It's a very complex question because when we think about multilateralism, we're thinking about the classical organized for a global peace accord of sorts and post-war reconciliation. There is a challenge to that multilateralism because some of the key players inside that are not finding the dividend. A place where the United States, for example, use that mechanism to have global hegemony, and that hegemony is now challenged globally. I mean, we now live in a multipolar world. That's on the one side. On the other side, there are certain things in the world that can only be done through multilateral cooperation. Achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, as an example, cannot be a local project, it has to be a global project. Dealing with climate change cannot be a local project, it has to be a global project. And as a result of that, what we have now is almost chaotic, but I think if we pull the right kinds of threads, maybe we are looking at a very new formula for multilateralism arising in the world. And ironically, driven by some of the nationalistic tendencies that are happening in several centers of the world. Because the pushback from places like Trump's White House, the pushback from Brexit, is organizing to reinforce a new kind of multilateral project with new leaders. For example, Xi Jinping is now one of the champions of the new globalization. Who would have thought so 20 years ago? Sift through this to see whether or not we want to have one universal formula like we had before, Or is it all right to have several different models to serve certain ends that we have
All right.
as humanity?
I have to take a break now, but I want you to just build on that argument a bit and tell me whether, in fact, already maybe a decision has been made to go one way or the other. If you look at the African Trade Agreement, which took years to negotiate, even after it took years, there are countries who still sort of drag their feet to sign on it. But I want to come back to that after the break. We're taking a break now as we do our roundtable on multilateralism tonight. Stay tuned.